Hi everyone. Welcome again to today's session. Today's session will be on threat modeling, and it will be our guest speaker will be Kiru Maina. So, if you could please introduce yourself, we can start the session.
Oh, hi, how are you? My name is Kiru Maina. Uh, uh, Today I shall be taking you through threat modeling. Uh, I actually don't know how to introduce myself. Please bear with me. Yeah, I'm a cybersecurity enthusiast interested in IT GRC, DevSecOps, and and uh, and and penetration testing at large. So that penetration testing with a specialization with a bias in web security. So yeah, today we're going to talk about threat modeling, which is one of the stages, which is one of the initial stages in the what I'd like to call the DevSecOps toolchain, because threat modeling basically gives you an edge, gives you some form of binoculars to see what exactly you might anticipate when building when implementing an application or a feature or even a network infrastructure. Yeah, basically all those things. Yeah. Please allow me to share my screen. Okay, you guys can see my screen, huh?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so yeah, where do we do this? Okay, there. Um, so what we'll talk about is we'll just do an introduction to threat modeling. I think we've done that. Then you're going to define common terms, and then we're going to talk about the objectives of threat modeling. So what you should expect from doing it, and we're also going to talk about what we shouldn't expect from doing it. That's what I call not objectives of threat modeling. I didn't have a way of calling it. And we're also going to talk about when to perform threat modeling and the methods that we can use, and then you're going to talk about threat modeling related terminologies. Yeah, and then we're gonna do a demo, and we're gonna call it a day. Yeah, we're gonna call it a day. Yeah, so according to Wikipedia, threat modeling is a structured approach in which we're able to identify and prioritize threats to a system and determine possible mitigation techniques so as to reduce or mitigate those threats. So, yeah, as I say, threat modeling gives us a binoculars and lets us gives us an idea of what we're going to expect before we set out to implement whatever it is that we want to implement. So we can use this, as I said earlier, to implement applications, mobile applications, web applications, microservices, and all those nice things, business processes. So it's not only a cybersecurity related thing, but we can also use it in business processes and implementing networks and also implementing distributed systems. We can also use it when implementing our cloud infrastructures. We can use it to we can have it somewhere or implementing physical security as well. There's so many things that you can use. There's so many places where you can use threat modeling when in our day-to-day cybersecurity careers. It makes things easier. It boils down things to what exactly you're supposed to do, and it also helps you in shifting left. I hope you guys know what shifting left is, because if I start talking about it, we'll go out of scope. We'll go on and on and on. Yeah, that needs a whole session on its own. Yeah. So why we do threat modeling? Over time, I'll just give a short story over why I needed threat modeling. So when I was in campus, we used to do you guys have these projects, right? So for some reason it was easy doing software development related projects than doing cybersecurity related project back then. I don't know. I don't know if now. I think now I will say I'd say the opposite. So yeah, when we're doing when we're doing this when I was doing my project much later, I sat down and looked at it and I was like, so if I was doing this project from a security perspective, what will I have in mind before 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 building whatever it was that I was building? So I sat down, I looked at it and was like, I think I could have done this differently. I could have done X, Y, Z differently. So I was like, at some point, I sat down and I got to thinking. So I got to researching. So why would, if is there a way for me to see the thing, to see I could have foreseen most of these issues that I faced. I faced much later. Uh some of these security issues that I could pinpoint after I'd done the project. So I sat down, I started researching, and I got I had this threat modeling thing. Um, I came across threat modeling now. So yeah, so if I was to do the project again, I'd sit down, I'd sit down and do threat modeling before I implement whatever it was that I was doing, so that I can be able to see to improve the security of my system through early and frequent analysis. I would also be able to pinpoint design flaws and implementation flaws that I had seen, so that I mitigate them early. So that will have been at the onset. And then I'd also I'd also I'd also do I'll also do threat modeling so that I can also make security decisions from when designing and and testing and deploying, and after deployment, and that's in the post deployment phase. So that this the third point actually comes in handy when you're working in an environment, because um when you're coming up with your minimum security baselines, sometimes people might think that you just dreamt and woke up and you were like, I think we can have this, we can have that, we can have this. So sometimes you need to back up why, you need to explain why you need you need this particular thing designed like this and not like that. Yeah. So that's why we do threat modeling. So threat modeling is not really, you don't require coding, you don't even need to be in security, you just need to have an imaginative mind and basically understand what you're doing. So this will be really good for developers. I don't know if there are any developers in the meeting. Yeah, so okay. So, not objectives for threat modeling. So what threat modeling is not. So first of all, threat modeling is not a test plan. It's just for me, threat modeling, a threat model is basically is basically a foundation towards building a test plan. So for me to build a security test plan using a certain set of security test cases, I do I'd I'd use my threat model also as a foundation to whatever it is that I want to do. So yeah, a threat model does not set out to be a formal proof of system security. As I said, a threat model is not all about coding. It's about, it has to do with coding. You don't need to be very tech savvy to be able to do threat modeling. What you need to do is just sit down, have an imaginative mind. Of course, you need to have basic cybersecurity knowledge, knowledge of maybe TTPs and maybe a threat modeling technique that you'd want to use. But yeah, but at the end of the day, system security has to be implemented. It's not implemented on the threat model, it's implemented on your application or on your network or whatever it is that you want to implement. So yeah, it's not a design review. It's just it's not a design review, and it's not a silver bullet to building a secure system. So I know what I'm going to say next is going to be a bit controversial. I don't think there's a secure system or anything of the sort. So it will just help you secure whatever it is that you see when securing, but it won't help you build a secure system. It will help in building it will help in getting there, but it won't get you there. So yeah, so that being said, a threat model is never complete. It's a continuous work. It's a continuous work in progress. It's a continuous project up until whatever you're implementing it dies, maybe because you stopped using it, or maybe because you rewrote it, or yeah. Yeah. So when you should perform threat modeling. So when a security incident occurs, uh so that's when you want to fix when you want to prevent the incident from occurring again. You can sit down, do a bit of threat modeling before you come up with so that you know what exactly it is that you're going to do. It's basically, it's like sharpening an axe before cutting a tree. So the longer you spend sharpening an axe, the easier it is to cut the tree. So you also use it when you're developing a new feature. As I said, it gives you binoculars, like some form of binoculars for you to be able to see what you will expect in the future, maybe after deployment, or maybe when you're designing, maybe when you're testing, of course. So yeah, so that's when threat modeling comes in handy. It's also when you're doing major architectural or infrastructural changes. So maybe if you're switching a cloud service provider, maybe you have a bias towards Google, you have a bias towards what's this one by AWS? Yeah, Amazon AWS, or yeah, from one provider to another, or when you want to switch from when you want to maybe write a new version of the application that you have, or yeah, so on and so forth. Like cases are examples are so many. Yeah. I think this is why I throw this in. Threat modeling is not doesn't need to be done in the planning phase. You can also do it you can also do it before testing. You can also do it in production. But the later you do it, there's a caveat. The later you do it, the harder it becomes to implement. So as we Kenyans would like to say, mapema ndio best. Yeah, the earlier it is, the better the earlier it is, the earlier you do threat modeling, the easier it becomes for you to implement these things, and the easier life you have as life continues. Yeah. So you're gonna talk about methodologies. So there are so many methodologies to do. There are so many ways to do threat modeling. But I'm going to touch on in this session. I'm going to touch on two, and then we're also going to touch on many. I'm going to just tell you others that you can go and look at your own time. So yeah, so I'm going to look at one. So we're gonna look at Stride and Dread. So I'm gonna start with Stride. So Stride is an it's an application-centric threat modeling approach that was created by I think was created by Microsoft. So Hello. So it's an application-centric threat modeling approach that was created by Microsoft. Someone can clarify that for me. I wasn't able to get another source to back up whatever it is that I was looking at when I was doing research, coming up with this material. So yeah, Stride categorizes these threats into 6 distinct categories, which include spoofing, tampering, repudiation, information disclosure, denial of service, and escalation of privileges. So hence the name Stride. So if you look at spoofing, spoofing means that spoofing looks at the meaning of if someone is going to maybe use this as going to pretend to be someone so as to achieve something. Tampering is something that is tampering looks at whether information is going to be the authenticity or the integrity of the authenticity or the integrity of the information is going to be questionable. So it's going to look at threats that align with that. Repudiation, it's going to look at threats that will interfere with maybe showing proof of who did this or who did that. And information disclosure, this is displaying or leakage of unnecessary information or information that was not supposed to be disclosed to the public or unintended audiences. And we're also going to look at the DD, denial of service. Denial of service is something that will make a part of your application or the whole application or your whole network unavailable for one reason or another. And escalation of privileges is basically a user being able to do what they're not supposed to do. Yeah, so privilege escalation. Yes, so that's basically Stride in a nutshell. So the other methodology that you're going to talk about next is Dread. So Dread is also a method, a methodology that was developed by Microsoft. Now, this one I'm sure of, in 2003 to serve as their internal threat modeling framework. So yeah, Dread breaks down every vulnerability using a mathematical formula to retrieve risk categories. So with that being said, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Dread is risk centric, it's risk driven. So if you break down Dread again, Dread is also an acronym to mean something. So Dread stands for damage. So how bad can the issue be? How bad can things be if this is done? Reproducibility is how easy will it be to recreate that particular attack. Exploitability is basically talks about how much work you need to do so that you're able to launch that particular exploit or to launch that particular exploit. A stands for affected users. Affected users is how many people will be affected by this. Will it be everyone? Will it be select people? Will it be nobody? Yeah. And discoverability is how easy is it to discover this threat? Is it a threat that has proof of concepts that are already there? Is it a a 0-day? Is it if it's a 0-day, I don't think you can count it because 0-day is something that someone doesn't know. Is it something that doesn't have a proof of concept somewhere on the internet? Is it something that you can discover using an Nmap script? Is it something that you can discover using so that's what Dread is all about. If you ask me, I think Dread is really complicated because it has a mathematical formula attached to it. So Dread can be equated to damage, the product of damaged and affected users, together with the reproducibility, exploitability, and discoverability. So as I said, this is risk driven. I shall not really delve into this so much today, but yeah, that's what DREAD is. So other methodologies that are worth looking at, in my opinion, is PASTA. PASTA means a process for attack simulation and threat analysis. VAST means visual, agile, and simple threat modeling methodology. And there's Strike. I shall not talk about this because the content that I have about this might be somewhat misleading. So yeah, you can go read and research on this at your own time. So after looking at these methodologies, all these methodologies are good. They're good. The people who came up with them had an idea of what they were doing, but I think one big issue that I find with not just threat modeling methodologies, but every other methodology is they're not fully reliable on their own. You have to mix things up so that you can get so that you can get the best out of all methodologies. Yeah. So basically that's it. Threat modeling terminologies. So when you're doing a threat model, when you're coming up with a threat model, there are words that you'll always hear being thrown around every now and then. So I've broken them down to this 4 words. So you have data flow, you have trust boundary, you have a process, and you have a store. So a data flow is basically an arrow showing movement of information or parameters in your system. Trust boundary is an interface denoting a transition between 2 interfaces. So this might be between the web browser, the web browser and an API somewhere. It can be broken down between an API and a database. It can be between maybe a set of logs. So those are different. Maybe it can be between your logs and your application server, yeah, and whatnot. So it's basically so that's what a trust boundary is. A process is basically an activity that is happening in the system. I don't think we can explain that so much. Store is a place where I didn't want to say a place where data is stored because that will sound like repetition. So that's why I said a place where data is resting. So this can be your logs, it can be your database, it can be local data that is maybe persisted on your mobile phone storage if it's a mobile application and whatnot. Yeah, you get the drift. It can be something that's stored in what's that thing called? This word CACHE, cache, that one. Before we get to the demo, there's something I missed. I just remembered it as I was talking. So there is ways how can you do this threat modeling. So you can do it as a tabletop exercise. So basically that's you sitting and breaking down these diagrams. Actually, before I dive into that, before you do a threat model, before you start doing threat modeling, you need to have assets of what you need to have all the assets of what exactly it is that you'll be doing. So you need to understand, maybe there's a database here, there's an application, there's an API here, there's a mobile application here, that's what I mean by assets. There's a firewall here and whatnot. So then this is not on the slides. This is just me talking. um you need to do you need to you need to decompose the system. So or or um or whatever it is that you want to implement, you need to decompose the system, the network. I have as I said, I have a bias towards web applications and mobile applications. So yeah, you need to decompose the application of whatever it is that you're building. So you need to break it down into individual pieces for you to understand what you're doing. You also need to study. Study is not the right word, but you need to look at the flow of data from one interface to another. So that's if there's data moving from point A to point B, you need to understand how data is flowing. Actually, that's actually the secret to doing good threat modeling. You need to sit down. You need to follow the data, if that's a phrase. If it's not, I think I have coined it. Yeah. You need to follow the data. So in my opinion, those are the three key things that you have to do before you start doing threat modeling. So yeah, with that being said, doing threat modeling, you need for you to do threat modeling, you can do it in at least three ways. I'm saying at least because those are the three ways that I have explored. There's no right way of doing threat modeling, and there's also no wrong way of doing threat modeling. So yeah. So you can do threat modeling using you can, as I said, using a tabletop exercise. This is where you sit down with your if you're in security, you can sit down with your developers during maybe you have Scrum sessions or anything of the sort. You can sit down, decompose the feature or whatever it is that you want to implement, or decompose the system, the application that you want to build, using on a piece of paper or on a whiteboard, and come up with a threat model based on that. That is method one. Method two, you can use a software called OWASP Threat Dragon. So OWASP Threat Dragon is a web application by OWASP. It comes as a web application or a mobile application by not mobile, sorry, desktop application. So the desktop application can be found in the three major operating systems. That's Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. Is it Mac OS? I don't know. Yeah. I don't have it, so I can't pronounce it. I can't name it. So yes, and then there is a Microsoft threat modeling tool. So as I had earlier mentioned, in the two methodologies that I've explained, these methodologies are done by have been created by people at Microsoft. So it made sense for them to develop a threat modeling tool for themselves. So they called it a Microsoft threat modeling tool. I haven't seen it on Linux. I've just seen it on Microsoft. I haven't gotten a chance to experiment with it, but the reviews made it look like it's a good software. So you can start with that. You can also, the fourth one, I also read another one recently. It's called Draw.io for threat modeling. So this is just your normal, it's basically, I don't know if anyone has used Draw.io. It nowadays goes by the name of diagrams.net. Yeah. So you have those four methodologies. Yeah. So with that being said, I think we can head on to the demo. Have I been speaking to myself? Can you guys hear me? Okay. I'd like to believe that silence means yes. Okay.
Yes,
So,
yes, we can hear you.
okay, good. Could have gone maybe 14 slides just talking to myself. These Zoom meetings can be really interesting at times. Yeah. So we're gonna do a demo. For some reason my Thread Dragon wasn't working by the time when I was setting up. So we're going to have to improvise and use something else. So so Shakiti Bobo we're gonna use a name, call this company Shakiti Bobo. It's a company that provides a SaaS solution for property management companies. They're working on a new feature where tenant accounts have to be created from the administrator's dashboard to avoid people who are not users from signing up. So using Stride, using Stride and known adversary tactics, techniques, and procedures, you should come up with a threat model and recommendations to securely implement this feature. Secure, as I say, secure is a really controversial term, but whoever was setting this question for me didn't thought that secure was the best word to use. But I think we all know that no system can be secure. So yeah. Okay, let us see what we're going to do. Uh uh uh-huh. So let's go back to the task at hand. So we're going to use Lucidchart. I like Lucidchart, so that's what we're going to use today. We're gonna imagine that Lucidchart is a whiteboard, and we're going to do a tabletop exercise, a virtual tabletop exercise. So yes, so what do they need? They need a feature just to create users. So this is going to be an interactive session. So if you have a suggestion, you can please feel free to add it on the chat so that we're able to move forward and do threat modeling together, because I said threat modeling requires imagination. So yeah, we need a feature to create users. So we're gonna drag this guy here. So so what happens is oh, not this guy. I'm gonna drag our matchstick guy here. Anyone can see the actor. Okay, so we're gonna have an admin here. The admin is gonna interact with this system. Let's have this arrow. So what happens on this system, it creates a user, right? Okay. The user, once he creates a user, the user detail is stored on the database. Actually, no. We shall have let's see. Okay, let's have this one. Make it big. Okay, so user details are stored in the database. What else? And then another process here. So we're gonna have another actor here. So this actor is the tenant. Remember, this is a property management system. So yeah, so what does this tenant do? The tenant logs into system with credentials. And then there's that flow of data from, need an arrow. Need a flow. There's a flow of data from here. Okay. Okay, we have 15 minutes. Cutting it short. And then we have flow of data from here to here. Okay, so that is what we have in the beginning. So anyone who has an idea of what exactly we can do using how exactly a threat actor might behave using the STRIDE methodology. Number one, anybody? Anyone? Let me say anybody. Anybody. Okay. Okay. So, okay, number one, what can a user do? So let's assume that someone, a threat actor, has already gotten access to the system using the user's credentials. As I say, STRIDE is not enough, so we can also use known adversary tactic, techniques, and procedures. So we can think of maybe the MITRE framework or anything of the sort. So maybe the admin revealed his credentials through a phishing attack. So, or maybe recycled his credentials, I don't know. So let's assume that the admin might have been compromised. So this is a threat actor trying to create an account, maybe to maintain access or something of the sort. Yeah, so that's number one. That's the first scenario. we also need to look at what the data of this user might be. So in your normal, in a normal Kenyan, in a Kenyan based system, maybe it's just a bias, maybe I'm just hating, but there's so much information that's usually given to that we give to SaaS software as a service companies that we don't really know through maybe through a client that we use, maybe in this case maybe through the landlord. There's so much information that we give to the landlord that this landlord might share with the software as a service provider. So it's too much information you shared by the user, by the tenant to other parties. So that brings like some form of fraud. We can also try and assume that we have poorly implemented role-based access control on the system. So this might be easy for a tenant to maybe escalate their privileges if they know that escalate their privileges and create their own other tenants, maybe using cookie hijacking or session hijacking. Yeah. And then also the admin might make many requests to create a user, which might lead to denial of service attacks. What other scenario can we have? I'm running out of thoughts. I'm running out of ideas. Yeah, I think let's go with that. So with this in mind, so for number 4, we need to, I'd like us to assume that there's an API here. Okay, which one looks like an API? Okay, let's pick this one, Mandico API. So there's a create user API. Okay, so let's start from bottom going up. Haha, bottom up. Okay. Admin might make many requests to create a user. So what we need to do here is we'll need to we can say security requirement number 1 is to throttle number of requests made to the API. Number 2, oh god, we're running out of time. What else? We admin, there's someone else, as someone might have implemented poorly implemented role-based access control. So what you can do here, we can log so that we can be able to have that concept of repudiation. So logging user activity when building when creating new users. Okay, number 3, number 2, too much information. So we need a leaner way of creating new users. Okay, so leaner way, that means we can, for you to create a user, we can say you need an email, maybe an email or a phone number, maybe for you to create a user. And we'll also, to the spoofing thing, to take care of the spoofing, the spoofing thing, we can take GitHub style and have some form of multi-factor authentication when creating new users or perform, because this is a sensitive task. So yeah, so now we have graduated from this. Damn, we have a quota on the number of users that we might need to, the number of diagrams that we might need that we can create with this. So yeah, so we said can implement two-factor authentication before. So when the user is created, before it goes to the database, we can have a new process here for multi-factor authentication. So this can be via email or mobile phone number. So by the virtue of doing this, we can have, that means we have reduced the amount of data that is being submitted to, the number of data that moves between one user to the other. So we'll move these arrows here much later. So yeah, we have this, and then let's say once you create that, the user details are stored in the database, and then this happens. Okay. So that means we have an API here. Where is that API icon? So we have, let's put it on top so that it looks cleaner. Okay. So we have an API here. So this API communicates with an external service provider to send a two-factor authentication code to our friend here. So our friend here, we're gonna get a code. So, but before it gets to the admin, that means it's going to hit a provider like, say, Africa Stocking. So yeah, we're not going to add that here because that's out of scope. Let's say verification code. Okay. And so we're going to have an API here. So what can happen in this? What can happen in this API? You can't spoof a message because you took care of this. You took care of the spoofing part somewhere. It's a bit out of scope. We didn't take care of it here, but let's assume it's been taken care of. So you can't spoof, you can't tamper, and what else can you do? Okay, let's focus on what you can do. So I can send so many requests to send a code to the admin user here. So what you're going to do here is we're going to, first of all, we're going to throttle the number of requests hitting this API endpoint. Okay. Number two, what are we going to do? This API is going to another service provider. So let's say, I don't know, Africa. Is there anyone who works at Africa Stocking here? I'd like to assume nobody. Anyway, this is free advertisement. So what should go to Africa Stocking? So API should pass what parameters? Should pass the phone number and the code to service provider. Okay, so for me, I think that's what you can do here. So you see how this model has changed from how it was to how it is. So what happens when this when the there's also the issue of brute forcing the SMS. So to increase the costs, let's say it's we can make good to have 6 digits so that we can increase the cost of the attack. It makes it difficult for you to brute force the verification code. So yeah, we can make the code to have 6 digits. I got that from Google. Google's two-factor authentication has 6 digits. What else? I think we can also do, we talked about the throttling part. So yeah, I think for me, these 3 are enough. Please feel free to add more if you'd like to. So yeah, so what happens if this guy receives the verification code? So when he receives this verification code, let's create a new arrow and have the user details being stored in the database. It's gonna become really complicated. So let's add the text here so that next time I can remember what I was doing here. User can add new admin can create new user. But so I don't know, have you guys noticed anything? We created a new user, but this new user does not have does not have a password. So yeah, let's make an assumption that the authentication method will be username and password. So now that this user is going to get a prompt to create a new password now because their details have been created. So so we're gonna have another process here. We're on level 3 now. So gonna have a process where email is sent to user. It can be an email or an SMS because we said you enter the name and the phone number. So email or an SMS is sent to user, notifying them of account creation. Please bear with me. I'm about to finish up. So yeah, we have these 3. We're on level 3, sorry. My thoughts got interrupted there. So so what this also goes to a third-party provider because you can't be a company that still uses PHP mailer or the mailing service. So what mailing service will we use here? Mailgun? Yeah, Mailgun. Someone told me Mailgun. So here we're gonna have an API again. It goes to sends data to Mailgun. Sends data to Mailgun. Okay, good. Oh, there's a label here. Too late. So so what are we going to have here? So we're gonna look at what is being sent. So we're gonna send a link. Let's write it here. We're gonna send a link. We're going to send we're also going to send the email. Let's stick with email. So we're going to send link and email and a token. Yeah, so what does this token contain? I don't know. It's a randomly generated token. This token should be randomly generated. I think I should. This is why I say something that I have seen. I saw a developer somewhere passing user details on a URL encoded in base64. Again, this is where I see base64 is not encryption. Please don't use it. Yeah, we don't like it. Okay. So link, email, and token. So that's what is going to be sent. That's the email that's going to be sent to this user. So we've already taken care of information disclosure. We've already taken care of okay. So assuming let's just assume that this whatever our developer here is going to send as a token is user details. Please don't use base64. So we're going to limit the information shared to the mail service provider. So that's one. Two, we're going to hash the token in case the developer uses user info as the token. What else? What else can we do here? For me, I think this is it. If you ask, in my opinion, I think this is it. Again, threat modeling is imaginative. We don't have time to imagine now, but yeah, you can think about it later. Okay, so this goes here, and we're going to. Oh, this diagram is getting pretty complicated. Okay, so this email gets the tenant. So what does the tenant do? I think at this point, you don't have so much control over what the tenant does. So the tenant clicks on the link, and instead of before logging into the system, we're going to have another process here. Should we have it here? No, let's not have it here. Let's move further right. Okay. Forgive me on how the arrows go. How the flow of the arrows is a bit messy, but yeah, we can clean it up much afterwards. So email containing link to create password. Okay, we have an arrow here. So we don't have so much control over what happens there. Then we have, so this is where if you have a password policy, you come and put the password policy here. Where? I'll put it here. Implementation of password policy. Yeah. Basically, that's it. So the user will log into the system and have credentials and using the actually, yes. We can try and eliminate this. You can try and eliminate this. Yeah. Is there anything that we've left hanging? Let's try and zoom out. Doesn't look so good. Okay. Yeah. So we have our threat model. Threat modeling is a long process. Actually, I think we've done it in record time. Takes about an hour to come up with a proper threat model. So, but this is what we have now. We can improve on this. Yeah. So, in the interest of time, I am going to share this diagram on chart. Yeah. So now that we have securely implemented this feature, is there anyone who has any questions? Because I think we've come to the end of the session. Any question?
Okay. Hi, Kiru.
Hi.
Nancy here. So yeah, it's been an amazing session. Someone has requested for the slides. I think you have shared that, or you're about to share that.
I'm about to share that.
Okay. Okay. I don't see any questions.
Okay.
Even from the YouTube stream. In case anyone has a question, feel free to ask. Before we close off the session, we have extended with around 12 minutes. So if you have a question, feel free to ask or give feedback on how the session was. But personally, I've enjoyed it. I loved everything about the session. So thank you so much for making time to do this today. Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to check YouTube, check the charts, make sure I'm not missing anything. But yeah, I don't see any questions unless you have something to finish us off with.
No, I think I have exhausted whatever it is that I was going to say. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the 19 that I can see now. I don't know. Yeah, thank you so much for showing up. I hope you guys learned something. And I hope now you're able to you're able to implement your system zero feature with security from the beginning and not at the end. Security is not QA. Yeah. Yes. So thank you so much. And have yourselves a pleasant reminder of the day or a pleasant night. Yeah, and happy Easter for those celebrating Easter.
Okay, thank you. I think I'll just hand it over to Maria. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Kiru, for coming. And thank you, Nancy, for co-hosting with me. I hope you guys have a festive season, festive holiday, and hope you get enough rest. Thank you again for attending. Have a good night.
Bye.